Get ready for more valuable financial insights from Northern California's premier retirement income planners, Dan Ahmad and Jim Files, owners of Peak Financial Freedom Group. For more information, go to peakfin.com. And now, here's Dan and Jim.
Welcome to the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. You're here with Dan Ahmad and Jim Files. We're your hosts today, and we are the founders of Peak Financial Freedom Group. Our firm only works with retirees and soon-to-be retirees. So we don't work with those people that are in the mode of accumulating assets for retirement. We work with those people that have already accumulated the assets and want to know, how do I protect them? And more importantly, how do I generate a steady flow of income at a high level from my assets for as long as I live without having to worry about it? Basically, how do I replace my paychecks in retirement? That's what our specialty is. And we like to say, hi out there to all of our listeners. Many of you have been listening to us for years. We met with a lot of you, but we'd also like to meet with those that are still wanting to meet. You can schedule your free consultation with us today. Basically, you can do it multiple ways. One, you can dial pound 250 on your cell phone and say the keyword money, or you can go to our website. That's peakfin.com, and you can get our phone number for the office, or easier, you can use our live chat feature and talk to someone and get an appointment scheduled. We have so many people using that because it's just so easy for them to use. You can listen to our podcast. We have all of our radio shows recorded, and you can listen to any of them going as far back as you want. We also have a YouTube channel now that we are not only recording our radio show, but we're filming it. So you get to see us as we're doing our radio show live. And don't hesitate to call no matter what with your questions. We like helping people with those big dilemmas that you have, so it makes you worry less about your money. So we'd love to meet with you, discuss any way we can possibly help in helping you attain your retirement goals. And we build plans for people. That's what we do. We love doing it. We're really good at doing it. And it really comes down to not looking at yourself as retiring, but we call it, and we've seen it written before, rewiring, and it's relaunching your life to a way that you get to live it the way you want. Just give us a call at pound 250, say the keyword money, or go to our website, peakfin.com. How about a quick overview of the show today? We're going to start with our quote of the week. We always use that financial quote of the week just to get us rolling. We're going to talk about market volatility in years, but also in election years. We're going to talk about what happens if you're older. What if you're 50, 55, 60 or older? What should you be doing then to make sure you're making smart decisions? You better have multiple income streams at retirement, diversifying that income to make sure that you're going to be safe. And then, are you overpaying fees, and how can you even understand what fees you're paying? I think a lot of topics we can cover today. But first one, Jim, why don't you cover the financial wisdom section, what we call our quote of the week?
I'm going to start with the author first on this quote of the week. Thomas Edison was a prolific American inventor and businessman. He was renowned for his groundbreaking contributions to the development of the electric light bulb, as we all know it today, and also a motion picture camera. Edison held over 1,000 patents, making him one of the most influential figures in the history of innovation. And this quote is perfect, Dan, for what we do. Edison says the following: good fortune is what happens when opportunity meets with planning, right? And what he's saying is that you cannot have good fortune from his perspective unless you're planning correctly. And we are planners here. We are architects of building plans at our firm. That's what we do. And this quote is perfect and matches exactly our philosophical approach to retirement, in that we don't believe anybody can have a successful retirement, stress-free retirement, unless they have an architecture plan in place, Dan.
Well, I'm going to beg to differ with you and Mr. Edison in that you can have a successful retirement without planning if everything's based on what?
Luck.
So the only time you are going to have a good retirement if you don't plan is if it's based on luck.
Yeah.
And in reality, that might happen 1 out of 5 times to people. If they don't plan, they might be okay. But what if you're not one of the lucky ones? What if you're one of the 4 out of 5? Then you better believe in this philosophy, and you better believe in our philosophy of planning.
Yeah. And I can promise you, if you have a spouse and if you're married, you might feel lucky, but the other one probably doesn't feel as lucky. And unless you can satisfy both emotions, if you are married in a relationship, there's no way, even if you have enough money, you're going to be successful in retirement, because you're going to be stressed out because the other spouse is going to be on you all the time for spending too much money, thinking that you're going to run out of money, worried about inflation, worried about long-term care costs, all these what ifs, right? But if you have a plan in place, and we talk about this on all of our shows, because Dan, people don't know what a plan is. They just think it's a bunch of assets allocated in a portfolio. They think that's their plan, but that is not a plan. plan.
Well, you want to give an example of what you're talking about right now. I had a client come in yesterday. They came in, they work with the biggest 401k company everyone knows. They have a 38-page document that they said was their plan. And all that does is show how their money is going to be allocated to different assets. That's what they call a plan. That's what this 401k company, biggest one out there, calls a plan.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the significance behind all this. Dan and I are mentors and coaches to a group of 18,000 financial advisors. This is the big group that goes out and recruits advisors from other firms, right? And these advisors are recruited. They come in, and this big advisory firm then trains them on their investments and their strategies. Well, they hired us about 3 years ago. We have a 5-year contract, which will be renewed. And we are training them every single week on how we do planning, because they're not taught how to do planning. They're taught how to invest the money, which is fine, but that's secondary. The only way we believe an investment strategy can work successfully is you have a plan in place before you put your money any place, Dan.
No, definitely. And that's always the goal, is to make sure that you have a plan. And let's take away all the components. Let's just look at two main components for people. You have a plan, one, that shows how much income you're going to receive and where that income is going to come from, and two, how much tax you're going to pay and how much net income you're going to have. So if you just look at those two components, think about all the listeners right now, think about how those two answers would make everything seem so much better in your life at retirement without looking at the 8 things we actually do, just those two main things. And it comes down, we have to have a plan. Well, let's look at a couple things right now that we're going to talk about, and that is market volatility. We talk about that a lot. So I'm going to start with market volatility since 1929. And then, Jim, maybe you can go into some of the concepts of what the issues are during an election year. I think we have to look at the fact that market volatility is here, and it always has been here. Since 1929, the stock market itself has suffered losses of average 39% every 5 years. So you think about that every 5 years. Well, if you're in retirement and you're 60 and you have to go through 6 more 39% losses, how in the heck are you going to be successful using your assets for income? And that happens, you're just not going to be. So we have to build that in. We have to assume the worst case, that that's what's going to happen. If you don't, and it does happen, you're going to wish you planned for it. So how about though, Jim, everyone always thinks, oh my gosh, it's the election year. This is a really weird, freaky election year, of course. So what about the 2024 election cycle and, the myths that people always go through? There's a bunch of myths that they talk about for that. So one of them is stocks don't do well in election years.
Well, there's no proven fact that stocks do worse or better in an election year. Yeah, you might do a little underperformance, but when it comes to election years, everybody's concerned about who's going to get elected, and they're all making these prognostications. But I'll give you a cute little fact. If you go back to 2015, and Hillary Clinton was guaranteed to win to the election by all the pundits, right? And Donald Trump was guaranteed if he got elected, the market would crash. Well, what happened? Hillary Clinton did not get elected. Trump got elected, whether you like it or not, and the market went straight up. So everything that was thought was going to happen didn't happen, right? So when it comes to an election year, yes, there's going to be volatility. But if you look at all the different election years, it's the geopolitical issues that could cause the volatility more than the election itself.
Definitely. I think you kind of even touched on the second myth, and that is markets crash if a particular candidate wins. And in reality, most of the things have already happened for the economic background for what's going to happen for the next 4 years once a new president gets in there, because the president can't do a lot. It's already been set up by Congress and the past president on what's going to happen. So you can try to do a lot, but if you then have a president from one party and then you have Congress, House of Representatives ran by other parties, you don't get anything done. It's a stalemate. How about this one? The Federal Reserve doesn't change policy in election years. In reality, the Fed really hasn't shied away from making changes in election years when it comes to interest rates. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's exactly right. There's not going to be many changes on that front. We already know for the last year and a half, we've had interest rates raised 12 different times. Yeah, they could go up again this year. Likely they're going to go down. But again, there's still uncertainty. Look what happened this morning. The labor report came out, inflation report came out, and it's hotter than expected.
You're back with Dan and Jim in the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. Today, we're talking about some really good information for you. We started with just looking at the markets, the volatility, and really what you have to worry about when it comes to planning. Now, let's look at, are you getting close to 60? Let's say you're 59 or older. We have a 3-step guide in preparing for retirement. The first is we have to find out what you have and what your 401k is all about. So we want to find out about your account, the vested balance, but more importantly, we want to find out what you have in that portfolio. And we want to do multiple things. We're going to call it our free 401k x-ray. Sounds pretty cool. Free 401k x-ray. What does that mean? We're going to now tell you exactly what you have in your 401k. And some of you might think, well, I don't have that much risk because I've used one of the age types of plans, right? Age dated types of plans, target date plans. And they think I don't have much risk. And then we do an x-ray and it shows you actually have a lot of risk. Some of you think you don't have much fees, but you have a lot of fees. But what we have to do now is tell you the truth about what you have. And very few consumers are happy about their 401k, mainly because they don't understand the 401k. What they also don't realize is that when they turn age 59 and a half, even if they're still working for that company, they can now transfer all or most of their 401k out to their own IRA and direct those funds to be invested any way they want that's legal inside of an IRA. So we're going to show you with your 401k when we do an x-ray, Jim, how the portfolio is performing. And we're going to compare that to other benchmarks, such as the other funds that are out there. We can look at how it performed to the S&P, ultimately show what percent is in stocks, what's in bonds, what's in cash, show them what they're paying in fees, show them how much the portfolio would make in a really good year. Like in 2013, the market went up by 32%. How much would they have went up by? But in 2008, the stock market went down by 53%. We'll show how much their portfolio would go down by. So if you'd like to have a 401k x-ray, we'll be glad to do that. Just simply dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword money, pound 250, keyword money, or go to our website, peakfin.com, and use the chat feature. So when we're talking about this, Jim, maybe give your view of what's happened recently with a client when you provided them a free 401k x-ray, and what was the outcome?
Well, we do this all the time. And often what happens too, Dan, is that maybe one of the people is over 59 and a half, and maybe they've already retired and the other spouse hasn't retired. So we're looking at from both perspectives. How do we allocate the assets for the person that we can move the money into an IRA so we can have them self-direct that and use our strategies to put a plan in place? And also we're looking at the spouse's 401k in case they're not 59 and a half and they can't move their funds. How should those funds be allocated to make sure that we're maximizing growth, but also minimizing risk? So not only are we looking at you all individually, but we're looking at it as a couple to make sure that you guys are doing, have a proper plan in place so that you just don't. And what most people do is they just have their money in one of these target funds, typically in their 401k plan, and they don't make any adjustment. They don't even understand what it is.
No, or they have the big, one of the big firms for 401k that we all know, and they always say, just hang in there, write it out. It'll be okay. You're in it for the long run. Don't worry. The market will always give you these huge rates of return. And what they're doing is they're talking the language of asset accumulation, which is not wrong if you're young. If you're below 50, then fine. Those are the rules we have to play by, which is called asset accumulation. But as you get older, you are no longer in asset accumulation mode. You better transition to asset preservation and income distribution mode, because you have to protect your assets against large losses. At the same time, you have to devise an actual plan in writing that's going to show you how you're going to use that pile of assets to create income, how you're going to use your pile of assets to replace your paychecks at retirement time.
Yeah, and the key there, Dan, is making sure that the consumer does this in advance of retirement. Because if you're 59 and a half now or 60 and you're going to retire at 65 or 66, making sure that 401k is structured correctly, you have the right investments, and also more importantly, having the alternative to have strategies that you can use by moving the money out of your 401k into an IRA that you can self-direct, and use a strategy that we would employ to make sure that you are set up correctly for retirement.
Well, what does someone at this age group want? They want to get as much growth as they can get without taking excessive risk, which they probably can get growth right now in their 401k, but they're probably taking excessive risk from what we see most of the time. And they want to make sure that they can use that asset base to create income on a dependable basis, which they don't have. So the two main things they want, they don't currently have, and we can have those things. All you have to do is dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword money, or go to our website, peakfin.com, and do a live chat. How about now? One of the scariest and most confusing areas when it comes to someone who's getting close to 60 that they're going to have to work on, and that is their Social Security. And when are they going to claim their Social Security? And if you go and you ask your financial advisor, your CPA, your 401k provider, or Social Security themselves, they're going to say in almost every case, defer your Social Security to 70 because you get the highest benefits, which is 100% true. You will get the highest benefits, but in over 95% of the cases, it's not necessarily the right decision for them. So maybe go through how we help someone pick what the best Social Security decision is for them based on not just looking at one test, meaning how much you can get to take your Social Security benefits, but explain our 3 tests we go through, put it in writing to help someone make a really good black and white decision about Social Security.
Well, the first test requires you all to go to SSA.gov and pull your Social Security report, right? So we have to understand what your Social Security is going to be at these different ages. Well, let's just assume today that your Social Security, your full retirement age is 67. That means at 62, you can start Social Security if you wanted to. Each year you wait, you get an 8% increase up to 70. So obviously it makes sense to wait because you're getting more money, but you have to do the calculation. So we have customized Social Security calculators here that have been created so that we can determine where is your break-even point. Should you actually, let's say you retired at 62, should you actually wait till 67? Well, you're going to get more income, but there's a break-even point because you're going to give up the money between 62 and 67 that you would have normally received from the government, and you're going to have to use your own assets to live on. Well, when you give up that money, in order to make it back, there's this break-even point, and typically it's between 78 and 80 years of age where it made sense to wait until 67. Now, if you wait till 70 because you're going to get more money, true, but your break-even point is north of 80 years of age, which means you have to assure you're going to live to at least 80 or longer before it made sense to wait to take that Social Security at 70. Now, Dan, explain the last test that we do.
Sure. So the last test we do after we figure out test 1 and 2 will be to take the money that you'd be getting at 62 or 67 or 70 from Social Security and just do a true financial calculation. And that is take those dollars, assuming you don't need to spend them, and invest those dollars and earn, let's say, 5% on those accounts. And how long would it take deferring your money to 67 and 70 and getting a lot more money to catch up because you didn't receive those benefits for the first 5 to 8 years? Well, if you run this calculation, in almost all cases, you do not break even until after age 90. So when you look at test 2, usually being break even at 80 to 82, test 3 being break even after age 90, it will point that most people should take Social Security as early as possible, as long as they're not still working and under the age of 67. And again, don't take that as our advice now. Let us run that analysis for you. Dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword money, or go to our website, peakfin.com, and we'll be glad to run a Social Security analysis for you. You're back with Dan and Jim in the Peak Financial Freedom Hour, and we're talking about 3 things that you need to do if you're getting close to retirement or in retirement. And we talked about first making sure that you've taken care of your Social Security projections. We found that it's very important to do a 401k x-ray to find out what you have. And we won't just do it on your 401k. We'll do it on your IRAs. We'll do it on your brokerage accounts. We'll do an x-ray and we'll tell you how much risk you have, how much return you could make. And we'll go over the fees that you're currently paying. And we also look at what's the income potential of that particular asset. And the more volatile your portfolio is, the less income potential you have. So we need to take that into consideration. But number 3, Jim, I think is one of the most important things. And it goes to one thing that we talked about when we're doing our training of that large group of advisors you mentioned a couple times on the show. And that is you have to have what is called a smart vision for your retirement future. And this has to do more so with your values and what you want to happen in your life once you retire. And we're not talking about asset values. We're talking about your heart, what you want to happen. Your money, really, for us, that's easy. We can plan it. We can give you a really good portfolio, maybe a better portfolio now that you have that might have a better opportunity for growth and less risk. That's easy, but that's not the focus. The focus is how do we make your life better? And it has to start, Jim, with that smart vision, meaning what do you want your money to do for you that will enhance your life or enhance the lives of your loved ones or maybe even your charities, because that's what the money's for.
You know, that's exactly right, Dan. And we ask this question of everyone that comes into our firm. One of the first questions is, what do you want your money to do for you? Do you want it to enhance your life? Do you want it to enhance others' lives? You're looking to save your money for your beneficiaries. What are you looking for? And I'll give you some ideas here. So some of the key questions that you may have. Who will I spend time with in retirement? Yes, your spouse if you're married, but your family, your grandkids, your friends, you have to identify that. What do I want my retirement to look like? Do I want to travel? And do I enjoy hobbies? Do I want to start a new small business? What do I want? Where do I want to live in retirement? Maybe you're fed up with the state of California. Maybe you're fed up with politics. Maybe you want to save taxes and you want to move to Reno, right? There's those things you have to consider. Do you want to downsize your house? Those are things that we have to discuss. When do I actually want to retire? If you're not retired, you have to have a map in place to determine when you can or want to retire. And finally, how am I going to fund my vision for retirement? How do I develop an asset plan, an income plan, a tax plan, and a legacy plan to accomplish these goals and others? And these goals really are nothing more than objectives. And you have thought about these and others, but what we do in the planning process is we're going to write down all these objectives. We're going to spend time with you so that you can understand. If you're married, you both can understand what each of you want in retirement and what your concerns are, so then we can develop a plan around that, Dan.
Well, based on what you just said, I just wrote a quick note to myself, and I think it makes it simple for the listeners, which is our goal. When you talk about retirement vision, that really means what you envision your lifestyle to be. So retirement vision equals lifestyle. Well, lifestyle and retirement will always equal the amount of income you're generating on a monthly basis. So retirement vision equals lifestyle. A lifestyle always equals the amount of income you're generating on a monthly basis. So the better the lifestyle you require, the more income is needed on a monthly basis. At retirement, it's not the growth of your assets that will be the most important. It doesn't matter what anybody says. It will never be about the growth of your assets. It will always be about the amount of income you're generating on a monthly basis that will allow you to live that lifestyle. And if you don't spend all that money, what can you now do with that money?
Well, you can spend the money for the things that you've dreamed about for the last 40 years while you were working, right? You had dreams that when you retire, you wanted to do certain things. And getting back to your comment, Dan, growth and income, they're two different elements. They're polar opposite of each other. Because if you're looking specifically at growth, which you have been for the last 40 years in retirement planning, right, in advance of retirement, yes, you're going to take risk. You're going to look at your portfolio every day. You're going to worry about when the market drops. You're going to be concerned about taking money out. You're going to be concerned about the risk. Are you going to get back to even when the market goes down? What if we have another downturn? What if the downturn lasts more than 6 months or a year or 2 years? You're going to look at all that stuff, and you're never going to use your money because you're in growth stage. That's a psychological stage. All of a sudden, though, you need to be convinced when you get ready to retire or in retirement, you've got to change your thinking up. You have to go to income and income distribution. Not that you can't have growth. You will have some growth, but you got to change your mindset, Dan.
But the problem is it's hard for most people to do that because they can't imagine that they're going to be able to create enough income off their assets that will allow them to do that. So it stops them in their tracks from even thinking about it. People are listening right now. They're like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Oh, that can't work. Oh, I can't generate enough income off. They're thinking that right now. Client came in 2 weeks ago, had $2 million of assets and thought there's no way possible that we can generate $120,000 to $140,000 of income off that because the safe withdrawal rate's only 3%.
Yep.
The safe withdrawal rate's only $60,000. We built a plan that will allow them to take out $140,000 a year, and that's going to be on a dependable basis for as long as they live. So if you can do that, what did it just do to that person's lifestyle? They don't have any pension. They have Social Security between them, so they get 60 grand. We built in another 140 grand. They have $200,000 of gross income that they never thought they'd be close to. They thought they would have to scrimp by just to get $100,000 of gross income. Now they're going to have $200,000 of income just by doing a simple, extremely risk mitigated plan for them.
You know, Dan, you mentioned risk mitigation. If somebody caught me in an elevator and they said, Jim, what are the two things you do? And I want to know it within 20 seconds. I would say two things. Number one, we are a risk mitigation firm. We will show you how to substantially lower the risk in your portfolio. And number two, we're an income generation firm. We will show you how to significantly increase your income in retirement. But we can't do number two effectively unless we do number one, Dan. We have to get your risk down to make sure we can get your income.
Well, if you have a volatile portfolio, there's no way possible you can generate a high level of income off of a portfolio that could lose 50%, like what happened in the stock market in 2001 and 2 or 2007, 8, 9. It's just mathematically impossible. The less volatility someone has in their portfolio, meaning the lower risk, the more income we can project to take out of that asset base because we have less chance of a large loss. The number one thing that will stop you from having a successful retirement is a large loss. If you'd like to talk to us and like a plan, dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword money. You're back with Dan and Jim, the Peak Financial Freedom Hour. Thanks for staying with us. We're going to cover a couple topics right now. Number one is, why you want to and you need to have multiple income streams in retirement. You just don't want to rely on one thing. We have clients sometimes come in and say, well, I have a big pension. Well, the big pension's great. And they say, I really don't need more income. And really, I've never met someone that really doesn't need more income. They just are afraid taking more income might increase their taxes or do something strange, but there's never going to be a negative for us creating more income. And Social Security can be one form of income. You might have pensions. You might have personal pensions that we create that will give you income forever. You might have withdrawals and distributions from other market accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, etc. Maybe you have dividends or brokerage accounts or CDs. And you might also work. All those things can provide you income. And it's nice to have diversification income. We'll do plans where sometimes we'll have 8 or more sources of income coming in, and they see it. You can see it on the screen for the next 30 years. It makes people feel very confident when they see all these different individual streams, how much is coming in each year, how much is coming in each month, how long it's going to last. All those things makes it very good. So when we build this type of plan for someone, we want to help so that they can basically have a lot better and far more successful retirement. And we'd love to help you. All you have to do is dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword money, or go to our website, peakfin.com, and you can use the live chat or call us on our office phone number. And there's no obligation, there's no cost to meet with us to find out, do you think we can help you? And for us to find out, do we want to help you and can we help you? So maybe, Jim, go through the steps that we go through as we prepare a full retirement plan.
Well, it's very, very important that you look at retirement planning completely differently than you looked at the previous 30 or 40 years that you were working, because you need to diversify your assets, because it's so important that you have multiple income streams that you just mentioned, Dan. So, for example, diversification of income sources. You can't rely just on a single source of income. For example, Social Security or just a pension, right? Or just your investment. You have to have multiple sources of income. You have to have the different strategies if you're pulling income off a portfolio. You need long-term sustainability, because retirement is going to last, in most cases, many, many decades. And you better have these income streams that are going to be put in place that's going to get you through if you live beyond 100 years of age. And it just doesn't mean investing money just in the market, because that money could go away. You have to have multiple income sources. Risk mitigation is a very, very key component of what we do here at our firm. You have to understand how risk will affect your retirement income sources. You have to know how to mitigate your risk. That's our specialty. We are risk mitigation advisors here. That's what we do. Everything we do is based on risk mitigation. From investments that we manage, we're using risk mitigation strategies. We're using algorithms to manage the money daily to make sure that if we have to get out of the market quickly, we can do so. The same thing with income producing products. We're using guaranteed income products to make sure the income is going to be there to sustain itself for your entire lifetime. You need to adapt to changing circumstances. Things change in life. People get sick. They have mental issues. They have, they could have a cognitive impairment. They may get things that happen to them that you've never imagined. You have to make sure you can pivot in life, and that's built into your plan in advance. Opportunity for growth. Yes, you need to have growth besides income, but there's a way that you can get growth without taking significant risk. Legacy planning. Many of you have kids or grandkids. You want to have in mind up front, do you want to leave money to your beneficiaries? If so, how much? And you can design that not only just with the trust, but your income plan and your growth plan can be designed to accomplish all your goals. And enhancing your quality of life and peace of mind. If you have all these planning elements in place, it's in writing, you understand it completely. You know how you're investing your money. You know where your income's going to come from. How much is guaranteed? How much is not guaranteed? It's going to maintain your lifestyle. You'll feel a lot more comfortable, Dan, about retirement.
Well, the goal is to have a plan, as we talked about earlier. And again, we will build you a full retirement income plan in writing. Our clients typically have $1 million to $10 million of investable assets. We can work with people, our firm does, as long as they have at least $500,000 of retirement assets. But the typical client has done a great job. They've saved $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million. And we put full written plans. And we know you probably don't have anything in writing other than how your assets are allocated. And if you've done what you should have and been successful in accumulating assets, you better have an actual plan that shows you in writing how much risk you have right now, meaning if the market crashes, how much you could lose, and then modify that to something you're comfortable with. You better have in writing where you're going to derive your income sources from for the next 30 years. You better have in writing how much fees you're paying. You better have in writing how much tax you're going to pay. And you better have in writing what you're going to be able to leave to your beneficiaries later down the road. And most important, you better have in writing what your budget is. By putting all those things together, we can now design a plan that'll make you feel extremely confident about retirement. And we can use strategies and assets out there that can generate an extremely high level of income that'll be guaranteed for as long as you live, while also having other assets in growth models, as Jim talked about, that will be invested for risk mitigation. And it's what people want. And if you don't have these things from your advisor right now, which we know you don't, just call us at pound 250, say the keyword money, or go to our website, peakfin.com, use the live chat feature, and we will meet with you. There's no cost, there's no obligation, there's no pain to go through this process to find out if our process and our strategies can help you, which we know there's a high probability it can. So simply dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say the keyword money, or go to our website, peakfin.com, and we'd be glad to meet with you and hopefully put you on the right track for a successful retirement.
For more information about Peak Financial Freedom Group or to schedule a consultation, just go to our website, peakfin.com. That's peakfin.com. And thanks for watching.